to invest. It comes from the Latin investire, which means to clothe or to endow with authority. So who is the first investor? It's God, investing, clothing Adam and Eve, endowing them with authority. I just thought that was so perfect.
I think the first connotation that you have to look at is the moral authority that you're endowing something with. If you are putting your money into something, if you are investing in something, then there's a moral connotation, a moral aspect to that.
I think the best I've tried to convey it is investing in alignment with our faith tradition, which is earmarked more to promote the common good.
Faith should not just be something that you bring your practice towards.
It should permeate it does permeate everything you say, think, and do, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, you should start from these faith principles and then work your way back. And then ultimately living a unified life between our faith, our finance, and our work is what we try and do.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to be consistent with the faith that we hold.
Yeah.
And that the investing process shouldn't be excluded from that.
Yeah.
And so I think our aspiration is to be consistent, is what you had mentioned, but also not to be hypocrites.
Yeah.
To do something completely contrary to our faith that would just cause a sense of scandal that we're not living a life as truly and as authentic as we should aspire to.
Welcome to the Ord Life Podcast.
What's new with you guys?
Just coming back to work after Easter break.
Yeah, it's good. Good 4 days.
Yeah, it was a good time of rest. You've been busy moving boxes, I presume?
Packing boxes. Haven't moved any yet, but we went to... So one thing we did recently that's new is we went to Monster Jam 2 weekends ago.
That's right.
Monster Trucks. And mostly we went because my 3-year-old, Bernard, loves monster trucks. If we're ever sitting down to watch something, what do you want to watch? He wants to watch monster trucks. And like for months and months, he's loved monster trucks and wants to watch them all the time. So we got tickets, took the whole family, mostly just because of this 3-year-old boy. And so we're there. And, the show's going on. And maybe 20 minutes into it, he looks over and goes, I want to go home. But then he's got the earmuffs on, so he's screaming, I want to go home. Just because he can't, understand his own sound of his own voice, whatever. So that was a little shocking. And then, so we took dragged everyone along, including my, 10-year-old daughter, who, when it comes to like gender roles and gender stereotyping, like mostly there's like, it's pretty accurate. The boys want to shoot guns. She wants to play with dolls. And they mostly align with those kind of things, generally speaking. But we forced Bernard to sit through the whole show, and it wasn't too hard. Like he was fine. And he did enjoy it and he loved it. But by the time we got out of there, I look at my daughter and she said, that was the best show ever. I was like, 2 surprises. There you go. Well, that makes up for Bernard wanting to leave 10 minutes in.
How did Daniela like the show?
She tolerated it. Yeah.
She tolerated it. Nice.
Yeah. And then
no one walked out with like, I don't know. I presume they're selling merch while they're there of like, Gravedigger seems to be like the favorite amongst your family.
Everyone's favorite is Gravedigger. I don't appreciate the death theme, but he does have his own signature tricks that are pretty good, and his own music. No one else gets their own music except Gravedigger. So I admit I'm also a Gravedigger fan. They sell merchandise at the arena, and there was long lines, and my kids are desperate to get in that line, and no, we absolutely bought nothing from there. And I said, if you want something, we will go home and get it next week, like maybe, but here and now. And I explain all the reasons, like it's going to be so much more expensive for all sorts of reasons. No, absolutely not. We're not buying anything over here.
Did you ever find, or do you guys ever find in your families that everyone will like something except for one? Because in our family, it was almost a rule. If my mom tries a new recipe, everyone would like it except for one. We try a new activity, everyone would like it except for one.
But was at least a different one depending on what it was?
That was a joke. It's everyone likes it except for Brandon. Like he's a problem child. No, it was yeah, this new, I don't know, meatloaf is fantastic, but Christopher doesn't like it. Or we go and do whatever activity and Bella doesn't like it. Or there's a soup that was made and I don't like it. Like every single time, there's always one. So you can never get a proper full consensus of everyone saying they enjoy it. Do you guys find that?
100%. Absolutely. With everything.
Yeah.
I don't even worry about it anymore. I just know there are going to be people that are not happy. Like,
Yeah.
That's too bad. I'm sorry. Except there is, well, AJ, with you?
Yes, I would say so. Canucks is a big thing in my family. So my wife Val and my eldest Ava and myself, we're the fans.
Yeah.
But our youngest Mia
Yeah.
will go, and she'll tolerate it and remind us of the big favor that she's doing for the family affair to spend time
How
together.
many reminders do you get?
But then while we're there, she'll also make certain to cheer for the opposing team.
Oh.
To let us know as a family that how she doesn't want to be there.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Anywhere else that she's like, that, or
I'm
is that
sure.
just a
But,
Canucks
yeah,
thing?
she's usually if anyone is to be contrarian within our family, it would be usually her.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's more like my family, where I have less like Anthony's family, where it's a different person every time. I have some consistency with where we get the disagreement. So if it's food related, generally speaking, let's say I don't count the baby, 4 people will like it, not including mom and dad, but 4 kids will like it, and 1 will not, and that 1 is always the same. It's always Ambrose. Or vice versa. It's a meal where only he likes it and 4 people do not. It's just how contradictory their palates are. But it's always, so we have to make a point of 1 meal a week is for Ambrose, and we all kind of suffer through it.
Well, what does he like, though?
I was gonna ask that,
Yeah,
right?
he doesn't like any of the normal kids' foods. Yeah, so he doesn't like cheese on anything.
Really?
Yeah. His favorite food is a vegetable soup with mushrooms and kale, and it's got like cumin and lentils and barley. And if we make that, he will have like 4 or 5 bowls, and he just keeps going back for more and more. And we all tolerate it.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Sounds like
And
he's got a sophisticated palate for his age.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's I don't know if it's sophisticated. It's just very particular,
Okay.
I think. But like grilled cheese, no. Mac and cheese, no. Pizza, he will tolerate meat lovers pizza. But he will sort of like me let you know how much he's doing a favor for everyone. Yeah. Okay. So that's food. It's always that ratio. And then if we're doing something out in the world, it's I have one, my third born, who's always, if we go left, he wants to go right. If we want to go up, he wants to go down. Like he's always got to be the contrarian to things we're going out and doing. We want to go to the beach, he wants to go to the forest. And so yes, Anthony, yes, there is always one person out, and it's usually always the same person.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit different than us. Then, oh man.
Although I have to say, that boy, so he turned 7 over the weekend, and one gift he got from his grandmother was a bug hunting set. So it came with a hat, a vest, came with binoculars, a whistle. It came with these clasps that you can like grab something in, and it doesn't crush them. You put them in a little container, and it's got like a microscope. And we went for a trail walk, and he found so many bugs. He found a salamander next to a stream, and I didn't know we had salamanders in this part of the world.
Huh.
And also, if you take
I'm
a
surprised he caught
salamander,
the salamander.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty quick.
he found
Wow.
this. I mean, I assume it was
That's
a
a good set.
salamander. It was a 4-legged lizard thing. We also found out if you take that out of its spot, it will soon die.
Oh.
So that was unfortunate.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
None of the little kids noticed. We set them free,
Ah.
and they did not. Yeah. Anyway, so, but he had a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun for his birthday. So him being contrarian, it was nice for his birthday weekend, and all this week he gets to pick all the things, and everybody else has to suffer through it.
It's funny.
Yeah. Okay. What are we talking about today?
We're going to be on our third part of Mensuram Bonam. If any of our listeners are reading along as we're going through this, I don't know if they are, but just in case, this is on chapter 1, points 8 through, what do we say, close to 20?
The first chapter, right?
Yeah.
1 through, 8
first
through
half
20.
of the first chapter for this episode.
You kick us off.
I was going to say I was about to put on one of you guys, but I've done that for the last number of episodes.
Well,
so
the way they kick it off is just so perfect.
yeah,
Okay, to invest, it comes from the Latin investire, which means to clothe or to endow with authority. So who is the first investor? It's God. Investing, clothing Adam and Eve, endowing them with authority. I just thought that was so perfect.
yeah.
Who's He's the first, of course. He's the best. But like as an investor, yeah, there he goes, right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the idea of like it's to dress or to clothes, but also that keyword of authority, that it has some sort of relevance. It's not just something that you serve. It's no, I'm giving you something. You have authority in this. I'm relinquishing my authority and giving some of it to you. I thought that was a very great word to be present.
So how do you relate that back to like first principles for us, not God as the investor, it's us as investors endowing with authority? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think the first connotation that you have to look at is the moral authority that you're endowing something with. If you are putting your money into something, if you are investing in something, then there's a moral connotation, a moral aspect to that, because, well, the way that we operate is that every choice is either for the good or for the bad. And so every choice has some aspect of morality in it. And so to endow something with authority, you cannot divorce that from the moral implications that it carries. To say, I'm going to put money here, and to put money there is to say, morally, this thing is good, or I am not good in asserting that this is good.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of typically when we make investments, like almost exclusively, we do so as passive investors, as outside investors, right? Where we don't take an active role in the business.
Yeah.
And we are endowing the management team with the authority to see through this mission and to use this capital well. But I mean, you're absolutely right too. That I like how it conveys a weightiness to these decisions. It's not just frivolously clothing here and there. It's the authority that comes with it. But in particular of that definition, I also like how it speaks to the fact that we're giving up that authority to someone else, right?
Yeah.
And it's our job to to monitor it, to keep on track of it, like those people, to make sure that they are seeing through that authority well. But this idea of we do relinquish some of our own authority with that money and give it to other people.
Yeah.
I would comment on where I think you were alluding to, Anthony, is the sense of responsibility associated with the authority.
Yeah.
And not to take that responsibility lightly. So I think where you were referring to, Sean, where we're relinquishing some of this authority for management to make appropriate decisions on our behalf, is also recognize the responsibility that we have with these resources that we're earmarking for growth, let's say, growth in terms of that resource for the future, but also the good that these companies will produce. So not to just, hey, they're taking care of it. There's still an element in which we can't relinquish the totality of that responsibility. There's an importance to keep watch of how those monies are being managed.
Yeah. But I think using the language endowing with authority, it conveys to me, at least anyway, that when you are making that investment and you are giving something to these other people that is significant, it's not just, I just put some money into this thing. It's like you gave these people your authority. So you should think about the weightiness and make sure you have your own responsibility to make sure they're seeing that authority through well. Like it's a big deal. It's not just here's money, use it well. Here's my authority with which I relinquish to you to do it, use it properly.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay. There's different language to use to describe what the document's talking about, what we're trying to do in our daily practice as Catholic investors. I wanted to ask you guys, because the Mensuram Bonam, they list a few, right? There's faith inspired, faith formed, faith informed, faith consistent. I've used morally responsible in the past. What's your favorite?
In terms of how to refer to our work?
Yeah.
I think so. I think the best I've tried to convey it is investing in alignment with our faith tradition, which is earmarked more to promote the common good.
See, I don't like that one.
Okay.
Yeah, because that kind of says to me faith, like aligned to our Catholic or our Christian tradition, says it. There's this assumption in my head that when you say that, like that, the church fathers are writing textbooks on investing or something, right? Like aligned with their principles. I know what you mean. There's an alignment there, but there's also a gap between what we're doing and then our actual Christian tradition. So like when it says faith formed, okay, no, sorry, faith inspired. I don't like that one either. I'm not inspired by my faith to go invest, like zero. I'm inspired by my economic need and by like my desire to do good in the world. So I'm not inspired by my faith to do this. But the one I thought is most accurate is faith consistent. That all the actions we do take are consistent with how we see the world, consistent with all of the teaching from the faith, moral teaching, and everything else. And that's actually the one I never use, is faith consistent. But I like that they pull it out. And yeah, I think it's the most accurate way to say it. I could just be all... Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I like the most, because it's very easy to say aligned, but depending on the person you're talking to, you really have to understand how they understand faith. Consistent, faith-based, Catholic principles-based, principles.
And also like
consistent.
faith-based, I don't like that one either.
No, me neither. It's like what would it be? The parody bulletin ad that I had sent you guys.
Oh,
yeah.
The
tagline was, "How strong is your faith? ? Try faith-based investing. We hope it works." Yeah, unfortunately, not too many people got the joke. They're like, "I don't know if I like option 3." I'm like, "No, it's not meant to be."
It's too intense, Anthony. No, I don't think you can say that.
Yeah, but I think it's difficult because in our experience, we've looked at certain people who claim to have faith-based or faith-aligned or whatever language you want to use. And Mensuram Bonam will go on to say this in the second half of chapter 1, that faith should not just be something that you bring your practice towards. Like you don't have your practice as it is and bring your faith into alignment with it as though faith is bending or you're bending your practice to do it.
Or that it's outside.
Yes, precisely that.
And different.
Yeah, that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, as opposed to something that like it should permeate it does permeate everything you say, think, and do, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, and that's the call out, I think, in maybe it's like point 27, we're on point 8 right now, where it says you should start from these faith principles and then work your way back. And I think in articulating our work, saying Catholic principles based is a good one. But again, it depends on who you're talking to. Because some people will hear Catholic principles based and then you're like, oh, so they're just praying that it works out well? It's like, well, not quite. But I think it is a tough task to do justice to articulating what it is that we do try and achieve with what we're doing. The short of it is to say, well, and precisely what this is outlining is to use Catholic social teaching. And the second half of this podcast will potentially get into some of those key ideas like dignity of the human person, integral ecology, subsidiarity, and those things, and use those as our building blocks for how we view the world, for how we view each person, for how we live that out in our daily life. And then ultimately living a unified life between our faith, our finance, and our work is what we try and do.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to be consistent with the faith that we hold.
Yeah.
And that the investing process shouldn't be excluded from that.
Yeah.
And so I think our aspiration is to be consistent, is what you had mentioned, but also not to be hypocrites.
Yeah.
To do something completely contrary to our faith that would just cause a sense of scandal that we're not living a life as truly and as authentic as we should aspire to live.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's where using words like faith-based, it conveys more weight to it than I think it should. Like, it seems to imply to me, like, we only invest in monks and monasteries and, like, because it's not necessarily based in the faith. Like, but it is consistent with all of the principles and teachings and your conscience, like a well-formed conscience.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think hinting at that unity of life might be key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I this is all called out later in chapter 1 in this section, the embrace of grace, where it says, I'm going to quote here, because all investments participate in the bounty of divine gifts, no investment can ever be considered morally neutral. Either God's kingdom is being advanced by the assets being deployed, or it is being neglected and undermined. And this is just going back to what we were saying. It's there, whether you realize it or not. It's not something you could choose to ignore it, but it's not something that you can decide is optional. Yeah. Like, it's inherent in these decisions, whether you recognize it or want to pay attention to it or not.
Yeah, it speaks of the influence that we have, of whether or not we're building up God's kingdom or building something against it. And so the call out to, hey, this is not a decision to be taken lightly. And I think the call out of the whole document is to be more discerning of what you're doing in the investing process.
Well, yeah, to be more discerning to the end of personally living a unified life. But as well, the point right before that you quoted there, Sean, talks about the Trinity and the relevance of the Trinity when it comes to finance, because the Trinity, for the purpose of this discussion, is three persons in one God, but fundamentally it's a unity. And so there's this extreme call out to needing to have a unified, not a fragmented view of how you invest. And all of the Catholic social teachings principles that they get into later on call out this need to see all of these things interwoven at a minor level, at a global level. And then these principles also themselves need to be seen as complementing each other and unified, because you can't just say, oh, in finance, we're going to maximize profit. In my personal life, I'm going to maximize my giving to my family. Because more often than not, whatever principle you live in one area of your life, you should be living that in all areas of your life. And if you don't, then it's going to come out. And that's why you have certain people who say, I want to maximize profit and I want to maximize material satisfaction, and they can struggle to have relationships.
I mean, you're speaking of authenticity, right? It's just like authentic in your real life and also in your investing life.
Yeah. In my head, I had an internal tangent where 2 nights ago, I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling going, I don't understand the Trinity at all. Like, it just blows my mind. How can you have 3 in 1? I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, you've heard the story about St. Augustine when he was trying to understand the Trinity, because he wrote a thick book, De Trinitate. And I don't know if he had a dream or if this actually happened.
Is it with the child with the ocean?
The child had dug a hole and was trying to bring all the ocean into this hole that he had dug, and just like a tiny hole. And Augustine's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm trying to fit the ocean into this hole. He's like, that's foolish. And the child's like, not as foolish as you trying to figure out the Trinity.
Yes.
I haven't heard that, actually.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
That is a very good one.
What did you guys make of the point of how Mensuram Bonam defines risk? Because I'll read the quote. It says,
which point
this is in point 8, so point still 8, okay. Very, very early on. And so it's talking about investing. It talks about God's creation. And it says, basically, in talking about God's creation, how God has endowed us with agency, it says, so it remains today, with each investment trading off risk, and then in brackets, or vulnerability for future protections and benefits. He goes on to talk about how investing can rightly be regarded as a vocation because it's a capability inherited from God to creatively foresee, mitigate, and resolve creaturely vulnerabilities. But what do you guys make of that equivocation of risk and vulnerability? Because I don't think I've ever come across risk as being so accurately defined as vulnerability. I think there's potential for loss, which you can see as vulnerability. There's uncertainty, which is how Buffett might define risk?
No, he would not.
No? I always thought it was, he would define risk as the amount of uncertainty you have in a choice.
Well, sorry, I'm thinking volatility. He would not describe it
Okay.
as volatility, which is how people typically,
volatility.
institutionally.
Yeah.
He would say it's risk of loss, I think. Or
Okay.
Probability of loss.
Probability of loss,
is what
gotcha.
risk is. Permanent loss.
Yeah. But what do you make of vulnerability?
Yeah, I read that, and I was slightly shocked that it could be described that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to make of it. I think I could get behind it
Yeah.
and to say, I mean, you're thinking about a business, you're thinking about the opportunities, and you're also thinking about the ways in which it cannot work out well,
Yeah.
which are the vulnerabilities. Like it's vulnerable to, economic decline. It's vulnerable to risk from a competitor. It's vulnerable to these, cost pressures on their input costs and all those sorts of things. But it's weird. It's odd to describe it as a vulnerability. That feels very, it seems much more human than I would
I was going to say.
think. Just how I think about a company and a business.
Well, if you look later on in that particular point, it speaks of the technical expertise that's required. So, I mean, that really speaks of our ability to reason and the numerical calculations that we make to reaffirm, okay, this is the right decision. I think vulnerability is, again, to your point, the human element of it is like a vulnerability of, I could be wrong, even though I think my intellect says that this will be completely right. Yeah, that's the way I see it in the vulnerability. It's an element of like, you won't know everything. It doesn't always work out perfectly as you anticipate.
No, I think it's very accurate to talk about it as a very personified definition of risk, but I think as well in a very tangible example. It's interesting how a portfolio can really address vulnerability because any given company is going to have a baked in amount of vulnerability. Any sort of idea that we have for a portfolio, and we're going to allocate some number of companies to that idea, is going to have a baked in vulnerability. But when you have an aggregate of companies, then you start to mitigate those vulnerabilities that are present and that are exclusive to those ideas or those companies. And so I thought that was quite interesting.
And you're right. Like to take what you're saying further, like if you think of the portfolio as an organism with vulnerabilities, and that we have, like, we can't change the facts on the ground with any particular business.
Yeah.
But what we can change is how we put them together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we say we like company XYZ, but we know it faces these certain risks. Well, we can add something to this cohesion that offsets those vulnerabilities and makes the whole thing more resilient.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just using that word it very much changes the way
It
sort
hits
of
a
think
little
about it.
differently.
It does.
Well, and as well, I think because so much of finance is understood as risk-return trade-off. But I think in defining it as vulnerability, for me, it becomes a lot more difficult to justify trading off return for vulnerability. It seems almost stupid to want to be more vulnerable, if that makes sense. And that you shouldn't be rewarded for having more vulnerability. Like you have to, if you're more vulnerable, be willing to enter a position that is going to have a higher return, but very much in aggregate, there's no reason why you should be rewarded for being extremely vulnerable to certain downside things if you can mitigate your vulnerabilities.
Well, except that's everyone would prefer to mitigate their vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I would agree. But in terms of if you have a portfolio, yeah, you shouldn't be rewarded for. I guess you're talking like idiosyncratic vulnerabilities at that point.
Yeah, it makes sense at the granular level.
Yeah,
But at the portfolio level, like, yeah, if you could do things to address these, you should.
yeah,
But like to some degree, it still makes sense why being more vulnerable should lead to higher returns.
yeah,
Because you would say accurately, it would also lead to lower returns. Like,
yeah,
and it's like if there's a risk that faces one of your companies and you add something to address that risk, well, the other side of that risk was an opportunity.
yeah,
And because you diluted your exposure to that opportunity. If that goes well, you're going to have a lower return because you addressed it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway.
What else is pretty much all the first page that we've covered here in the first half hour of this podcast.
Yeah. I thought we were going to keep this one short.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to jump back to that section 18, where in the embrace of grace in that second bullet point. There's a distinction they make between true prophets and false prophets. What do you guys think of this distinction between being true prophet as providing honest, fair, enabling value to humans as society versus quote unquote false prophets, which have harmful impacts, which are downloaded on others or future generations? I like the idea that not all profit is created equally.
Yeah.
Which I would agree with.
I would agree.
There's economic activity that builds up the world.
Yeah.
That is productive, that is helpful to how we live and to live, whatever. We produce more food, or that we live in warm buildings and those kind of things. And then there's a kind of profit which is, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost parasitic.
Yeah, I think you very accurately hit that not all profit is created equal. And I think when we say that capital is meant to be put to good use, it's meant to be put to productive. Yeah, is this company good, useful, productive? That's what we're really asking, is what sort of profit is it making? Is the profit a result of a good service? Is it a result of good business practice? Is it a result of a good product that is being delivered in a well-done way? Or is it just using people instrumentally? Is it
or is it something that enables or helps those dehumanizing human behaviors?
Yeah.
Right? Like I think of like a really addictive cell phone game that really just is doing nothing for your life at all, and it is designed solely to capture your attention as much as possible, and like adds nothing.
Yeah, and drain your time. Like is this helping somebody become a better person in its practical use case? Yeah. There's another point that I had, but I'm kind of forgetting it now. AJ, what do you think?
I was trying to find where specifically and the context as to the discernment between, I guess I'm going to distill to a good and bad profit. But I think it's just the underlying of if the profit is just generating return, but also like what other good does it do that may not be represented in terms of a dollar value.
Yeah.
I think I'd call out to choose companies that have profit not only from a monetary side, but also from building a good future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can even think of certain companies that are using discriminatory pricing practices to get as much value out of the consumer as possible. I think there can be an argument there for that being a false type of profit. Are
you calling out Ferrari again?
Not necessarily Ferrari, no.
Or like a surge pricing kind of concept?
I was thinking much more of ticket sales and how expensive certain tickets can be.
Yeah. I mean, you could just say like monopoly profits.
Yeah, monopoly profits, exactly. Yeah. Where what the average person is willing to pay that would like to have this product or service is, let's say, call it $50. But because there's only so much this resource, you are going to squeeze every penny out of each person who can pay for it, because you're only taking the, 10,000 people with the absolute highest willingness to pay. And so you've maxed out all the money that you can get from it, and you've not necessarily made everyone better off, because let's say there's an addressable market of 200,000 people who may have enjoyed that thing that you are providing, but you said, nope, I'm only going to give this to the people who are
the highest bidder, essentially.
Yeah, and obviously the counter to that as well, wouldn't you want to make as much money as you possibly could on anything? And it's like, well, yes, but what is the purpose of this thing? Is it meant to be shared, or is it meant to be profited from? And I think when you distort those two things and make things that are common goods much more profitable goods, then you start to distort the natural end of a given experience or service or product.
You make the priority extracting as much profit as possible from people who are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And maybe, You're using concerts as the
Well,
example?
yeah, concerts, like some of the FIFA tickets that you've heard of.
Well, which is like an emotional buy. Is like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you are really committed to this, and how much can I extract as much
Yeah.
as possible from
Yeah,
you? And
it's the love.
multitude.
It's people who love the game, and well, who is it going to? It's only the people who can pay the absolute most for it, which isn't. I mean, even if you take like a very utilitarian approach, numerically, yes, you're giving it to people who can pay it the most, but are you giving it to people who?
But you're also
love it
doing
the
a disservice to the people who can't really afford it.
And
but
that's just
they're-
it.
That are in this moment in which they're spending way more than they originally wanted to.
Yeah, yeah, or yeah, and ultimately leads to a very inefficient allocation of capital because you're going to have people who should not be paying $800 for a 3-hour match. I don't know how long soccer matches end up. Like the whole experience for yourself. You go in your early 90-minute match, sometime for halftime. You stay a little bit after. I don't know, but just paying an absurd amount for that when in reality maybe that should be going to somebody's family. Maybe that should be going to paying rent, paying down a mortgage, paying down student loans, whatever that may be. And as well for people who have capital to be just spending this money like it's nothing when, again, the big call out to Mensuram Bonam is that you, like any sort of financial decision is a moral decision. And so putting too much money to something that is just a mere experience, I would argue is an inefficient allocation of capital on the whole. Because again, going back to this idea of you cannot have a fragmented criteria for how you spend money, you need to think, well, is it going to be okay if everybody does this? If everyone gets as much money as they possibly can out of their product instead of charging a just price, a price that is maybe a little bit more than what they had to pay for it? Well, no, you can't do that because the problem is then you're just going to have farmers who charge everybody as much as they possibly could. The only reason why that doesn't happen is because of competition. But if that weren't the case, then
I kind of disagree.
Yeah.
With the particular example
Yeah.
of FIFA tickets,
Okay.
World Cup tickets. There's a finite number of seats, and naturally, whoever's selling tickets is going to sell them to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
Let's just say there's just they don't even set the price. Let's just say there's an auction,
Yeah.
and that auction price ends up being exorbitantly high, which it is, right? Like there's
Yeah.
because they're selling these tickets.
Yeah.
They could probably raise them even more
Yeah.
and still sell out 10,000 tickets. I think it's the fault of the ticket buyers who are being
They're not well
irresponsible with their money.
Yeah.
Right, because if no one is willing to pay $1,000 to go see a soccer match, which is crazy,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be able to sell them at that price.
Yeah.
So I almost don't fault the ticket sellers. I fault the people who are making poor decisions with their money. As you say, like, oh, this could go down to pay your mortgage. This could go to this. It could go whatever. You
Yeah,
could
but
just give this away.
Yeah.
It's probably better use of this money.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's the freedom that we have with the monetary resources that we have.
Yeah.
And it's really a call out to, and I guess this whole document is to just give more discerning thought as to what you're actioning.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that someone who is considering FIFA tickets has probably set some sort of high budget and perhaps a conversation within the family.
Yeah.
As opposed to letting the whims of the circumstance of like, oh, I got 30 seconds to check out. I need to
Yeah.
pay $10,000 for a ticket or something like that.
Yeah.
I think your general example is correct. There probably are many instances where you can find. Yeah, isn't that a common criticism of Ticketmasters because they are the only vendor of these tickets that, like, their fee, that their portion that they keep themselves that doesn't go to the performer is exorbitantly high, and that's where they're really exercising these unjust prices because they can, because there's no alternative.
But there's always a secondary market that would exist that would do it otherwise.
Yeah.
So as just feeding off people's hedonistic desires to
Yeah,
satiate their passions.
Yeah. Now, when I play Monopoly with my children, and they
I love where this is going, by the way.
never give me a break on rent,
Yeah.
and they're never satisfied until I am completely crushed, I'm going to throw this in their face.
Yeah.
You were charging me unjust profits. There's not what it cost you to build this hotel, not even close to it.
Yeah.
I think we'll just kind of coming back to this idea of like true profit and false profit. In my head, it speaks more to the fact that, not the quantity of profits, how much you're making, but if you are engaged in something which is in this false profit category is you should just stop. Like, you shouldn't be doing this at all.
Yeah.
There's probably, when it says downloading onto others or future generations, that feels like a call out to the, I'm going to say the climate thing, which sounds very patronizing for me to call it that.
Yeah, I was going to go back to the FIFA example.
Yeah.
If you have, and yeah, maybe just in general, if you as a company are profiting from exorbitant expenditure on your product or service, say to the detriment of a person's family, I think that's where you can have an issue with false profits. So yeah, if somebody
because you're enabling these people to make
because you're enabling
them. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Like just it's like if you have a club where there's bad things going on, you can't say, oh well, it's because people are coming here, they're the ones who are at fault. I'm making money from it, but it's the customers whose fault it is. No, you're running
a club that's downtown. It's open all night. You're playing. You're picking music
you have
that leads
certain dancers.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And that's what I mean in terms of when it comes to false profit. It is what, not only are you profiting, how much is the profit necessarily, but it's what vice are you facilitating within this? It's the bank that charges far too much on interest. It's that type of situation. Like, yeah, you can be lending to good people for good reasons, but are you taking advantage of the fact that you're lending to them in their dire circumstance?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I disagree with my previous self, and I agree with Anthony.
Yeah. It's what are you enabling through this?
Yeah. And it's funny because it's not like the activity itself in this example is not bad, watching a soccer game.
Yeah.
But you're enabling this irresponsible waste of money on these exorbitantly priced tickets, which you should rethink this. Yeah. Allowing people to spend way too much money on this thing.
Yeah.
Although I will say for World Cup, it's probably extremely expensive to put that on. So.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. But I think they also make a crazy amount of money off of brand deals and broadcasting and all that.
All the other things, yeah. I know for Formula One, I think the venues, the hosts break even.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
Even though the tickets are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
To go see it in person, they pretty much just break even.
Is that their goal? Just to break even? Or just so happens it works out that they break even?
I think a lot of them lose money.
Okay.
The whatever, not Formula One itself, not Liberty Media, but the host track,
the host
or city or whatever it is. Yeah. Because it's just such a big endeavor to take on to set this thing up and host all these people. I don't know if it's supposed to be that way. It's just the way it is. I think people just accept it because there's like peripheral benefits that come from it.
Yeah.
But there's an example where something is extremely pricey, but it comes with minimal profits just because it's so costly to do. All right, how's our treatment of chapter 1? This is getting long.
I think that's pretty good. Yeah, we're at about 45 minutes now, so we'll see what can be cut down. But yeah, for me, I think the big call out of this first part of chapter 1 is just the need for a unity within your life and your investing framework. And you cannot divorce those two things and have one ethics for your personal life and another one for your investing life and your approach to investment. And I think it's called out at some points, and I'd highlighted it. But to think that you can divorce these two things or live them separately is a very false narrative. And we'll get into what some of these core principles are in our next podcast.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. I'm AJ.
I'm Anthony.
I'm Sean.
Thank you for listening.
You changed the order.
I did. I wanted to mix it up.
This podcast has been prepared by Sean Gregory, who is a portfolio manager, AJ Sanson, and Anthony De Lazari, who are associate investment advisors for IA Private Wealth Inc. Opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the portfolio manager and investment advisors only, and do not necessarily reflect those of IA Private Wealth Inc. IA Private Wealth Inc. is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. IA Private Wealth is a trademark and business name under which IA Private Wealth Inc. operates.